Have you ever wondered why, despite all the knowledge you have, you still can't seem to achieve success? The answer lies in the image you have of yourself. It's not what you know that defines your destiny, but how you see yourself. The human mind works in a very peculiar way. It doesn't act based on what you learn, but rather on what you believe you're capable of. This internal vision, this self-image, is what truly guides your steps and determines whether you'll reach your goals or not. Now imagine the mind as a map. If you have the wrong map of yourself, your actions will always be misguided, no matter how well you know the route. And here's the big secret. Even if you know exactly what to do, if your self-image isn't aligned with that success, you'll never get there. Your efforts will always be sabotaged by the mind, which believes you don't deserve it or aren't capable. This concept goes beyond what many understand. Our perception of ourselves is the invisible engine behind our actions. You may have the best plan, the best resources, but if your mind doesn't believe you're worthy of achieving them, you'll sabotage yourself. For example, how many times have you found yourself procrastinating on something important, even though you knew exactly what needed to be done? That's your self-image in action, telling you that you don't deserve or can't achieve success. The truth is, our mind has an incredible power to either create or destroy our chances of success. If your self-image is filled with limiting beliefs, it will be the obstacle you need to overcome. The good news is that you can change it. When you start working on your self-image, everything begins to shift. The key isn't doing more, but being more confident, more aligned with who you truly are. And this is something most people overlook. The transformation you're seeking starts with changing how you see yourself. Until you elevate that internal image, the external success will always seem out of reach. But once you begin to shift your self-image, the path to success becomes clearer, more attainable, and within your grasp. Do you ever feel like your brain is working against you? That no matter how hard you try, something inside holds you back from achieving your goals? What if I told you that the way your mind works is like a complex control system, adjusting based on your self-image? That's exactly what Maxwell Maltz discovered through his groundbreaking work in psychocybernetics. His theory explains that the mind operates like a cybernetic machine, constantly correcting and adjusting to align with how you see yourself. Imagine your mind as a guidance system, much like an autopilot in an airplane. If the plane's autopilot is set to a course that's off, it will keep making small corrections, bringing it back to the wrong path, no matter how much the pilot tries to correct it manually. In the same way, your self-image functions as that autopilot, guiding your thoughts, decisions, and actions in ways that either help or hinder your success. If you don't believe you deserve success, your mind will steer you towards failure, regardless of your conscious efforts. Psychocybernetics isn't just a theory, it's a way of understanding how the subconscious mind works. Maltz showed that your self-image acts as a blueprint, a mental model that influences every aspect of your behavior. This is why some people find it difficult to break through their limitations. Even when they know the steps to take, their internal map doesn't align with their goals. It's like trying to follow a GPS that's leading you down a dead-end street. So, what happens when your self-image is out of alignment with the success you're striving for? The answer lies in the brain's feedback loops. If you see yourself as incapable or undeserving of success, your brain will automatically reject opportunities or sabotage your efforts, even if you consciously know what to do. You could have all the strategies, all the knowledge in the world, but without the right self-image, your efforts will be in vain. What's fascinating about psychocybernetics is that it reveals how you can reprogram this system. Just like recalibrating a faulty machine, you can adjust your internal self-image to match your desires. The key is recognizing that your mind is not fixed. It's a system that can be reshaped. By changing your mental blueprint, you start to align your actions and results with the success you want to achieve. So, how do you begin this transformation? The first step is understanding that your current self-image is not set in stone. It's a result of past experiences, beliefs, and conditioning. But once you realize you have the power to change it, everything shifts. And in the next step, we'll dive deeper into how you can use this knowledge to reprogram your mind and break free from the mental blocks that have been holding you back. You've probably been there before, armed with all the knowledge in the world. You know exactly what to do, yet you still fall short. It's frustrating, isn't it? The gap between knowing and doing is far wider than most people realize. The truth is, knowledge alone won't get you anywhere. The question isn't whether you know what to do, it's whether you believe you can do it. And that belief, or lack thereof, is rooted in your self-image. Think about this for a moment. You can read all the books, take every course, and gather all the strategies for success. But if your self-image doesn't match the person capable of achieving those goals, your brain won't let you succeed. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. No matter how hard you push, it won't fit. Your self-image acts as a filter, distorting what you're capable of based on how you see yourself. It's easy to dismiss this as some psychological mumbo-jumbo, but the reality is that your mind operates on autopilot, guided by the self-image you've created. Knowing what to do is only part of the equation. What truly matters is the mental framework you've built around your identity. If you see yourself as someone who's not capable of success, no amount of external knowledge will push you across the finish line. Your subconscious mind is working against you, telling you that you're not worthy of success, no matter how many steps you've learned. This is why so many intelligent and capable people struggle with taking action. They know the steps to success, they know the strategies to win, yet they freeze. They get stuck. The reason? They've built a mental model of themselves as someone who doesn't deserve or can't achieve the very success they've been taught to chase. It's a silent barrier that blocks every attempt, no matter how much they try to force through. But here's the kicker. Once you start to change your self-image, things begin to shift. Your actions start to align with your knowledge, and the once elusive success becomes inevitable. However, this isn't a quick fix. It requires a real shift in how you see yourself, how you truly identify at the core level. It's like taking the steering wheel of your life and shifting the course, not through brute force, but through mental recalibration. So if you're stuck in this cycle of knowing but not doing, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, how do I see myself? What identity am I holding on to that's preventing me from acting on what I already know? The answers to these questions are the key to unlocking the next phase of your journey. And in the next step, we'll explore how your mind actively sabotages your best efforts when your self-image doesn't match your goals. Ever felt like you're trying your hardest, yet it still feels like something is pulling you back? Like your best efforts are met with resistance that seems invisible, yet unshakable? Maxwell Maltz called this the failure mechanism, a psychological force built into our brains that sabotages our success the moment we push beyond our current self-image. It's not about what you're doing wrong, it's about what your mind is doing against you. Our brains, contrary to what we like to believe, are not neutral in the pursuit of success. They aren't just mechanical problem solvers, they're emotionally driven, wired to maintain homeostasis. This means that whenever you start to reach for something that challenges your current self-perception, your brain perceives this as a threat. It activates this self-protection mechanism, pulling you back to a place of comfort, even if that place is far from where you want to be. This isn't a conscious decision. It's your mind's way of keeping you safe, even if that safety is keeping you stuck. But how does this manifest in everyday life? It might show up as procrastination, sudden self-doubt, or even self-sabotage in the form of overthinking. You might know exactly what you need to do, but when the time comes to act, you freeze or make excuses. It's as if an invisible force is steering you away from taking the necessary steps, even though you're consciously aware of the actions required. This is the failure mechanism at work. Your brain's way of keeping you from breaking free of the familiar, even if that familiar is self-imposed limitation. What's fascinating is that this mechanism isn't just about fear of failure. It's also about your brain's reluctance to take on a new identity. When you push beyond your current self-image, you're essentially creating a new version of yourself. But your mind doesn't want to do that. It's easier to stay with what's comfortable, even if it's a place of mediocrity. This reluctance to change forms a self-sabotaging cycle that's difficult to break because it operates on an unconscious level. The real question is, how do you overcome this? How do you push past your brain's built-in resistance to growth? The first step is understanding that the failure mechanism is not personal. It's simply a defense mechanism of your mind trying to keep you the way you've always been. By recognizing it, you begin to separate your sense of self from the sabotaging forces within you. You stop identifying with that mechanism and realize that it's just a part of the system, not a reflection of your true potential. Now think about it. How many times have you been stopped dead in your tracks by this invisible force? How many opportunities have you missed because your mind made you believe you weren't capable? The next step is to confront this mechanism head-on. Real growth isn't about avoiding failure. It's about retraining your mind to act despite it. Only when you face this inner resistance can you break free and start achieving on a whole new level. The path to true success is through this very mechanism, but only if you learn to bypass it. The question is, will you? Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much you try to change, you end up in the same place? It's as though your life is following a hidden path, one you don't even know exists, but one that keeps shaping your choices, behaviors, and even the opportunities that come your way. Maxwell Maltz described this as the inner blueprint, a deeply ingrained mental framework that guides every action you take, often without you even realizing it. But what if this blueprint is outdated, limiting, and holding you back from the life you truly want? Your inner blueprint isn't something you can see. It's a mental construct formed over years of experiences, beliefs, and influences. It's the internal map that dictates how you navigate the world. When you encounter a new opportunity or challenge, your blueprint determines whether you step into it with confidence or retreat in fear. The problem? Most people never question this blueprint. They live out their days unaware of the powerful, subconscious forces that are at play in every decision they make. Imagine this. You set a goal, and you're fully prepared to make it happen. You even know exactly what steps to take. But then, you encounter resistance, small doubts, a sudden lack of energy, or a feeling of incompetence that stops you in your tracks. What you might not realize is that your inner blueprint doesn't match the success you're aiming for. It was built around past experiences, past beliefs, and a past version of yourself. The future you're trying to create doesn't fit within the confines of that blueprint. But here's the unsettling truth. Your mind doesn't want to break this pattern. Your subconscious will fight tooth and nail to keep you in alignment with that blueprint, even if it means self-sabotage. This is why, despite knowing exactly what you need to do, you still fall short. It's not that you don't have the tools, it's that your inner blueprint hasn't been upgraded to reflect your new goals. If your blueprint still sees you as someone who doesn't deserve success, or who isn't capable of achieving greatness, your mind will sabotage your every attempt to break free. Now, consider the people who seem to effortlessly move from success to success. Are they really that different from you? What if the key difference lies in the blueprint they're operating from? What if their mental map has been programmed for success, abundance, and achievement from the start? You see, those who thrive have consciously or unconsciously upgraded their blueprints. They've redefined their self-image to match the person they want to become, and they take actions in alignment with that new identity. But here's the most powerful question. How do you rewrite your own inner blueprint? It starts with awareness. The moment you begin questioning the mental limits you've set for yourself, you can start tearing down the old blueprint. It's not easy. It requires confronting deep-rooted beliefs and behaviors, but it is possible. You need to start creating a new mental map, one that's aligned with the person you aspire to be. And once you do, your actions will start to reflect this new image. The real question now is, are you ready to rewrite your map and therefore your life? Have you ever stopped to think about how deeply your identity is shaping your actions or inactions? The truth is, many of us are prisoners of our own self-image. We don't even know it. We may have all the tools, knowledge, and potential in the world, but if our identity doesn't match our aspirations, we'll self-sabotage every time. It's like trying to drive a car with a handbrake on. No matter how hard you push, you're never going to get far. The question is, what part of you is holding the brake? At the core of self-sabotage is identity. Your identity is the mental story you've been telling yourself since childhood, influenced by your experiences, relationships, and society's expectations. This narrative is so ingrained that you often don't even realize it's there, silently dictating your life choices. If you see yourself as someone who isn't capable of success, guess what? Your actions, your behavior, and your mindset will always reflect that belief. It's not about what you know, it's about who you think you are. Think about the people who dream of achieving something big, but always find a way to hold themselves back. They say they want success, but their actions tell a different story. They procrastinate, they make excuses, or they sabotage themselves in ways that defy logic. This is identity at work. Your internal self-concept doesn't align with the success you're aiming for. So, your subconscious mind creates resistance to protect the identity you've spent a lifetime building. And it does this, not because it's malicious, but because it's trying to keep you safe within the confines of what it believes is possible for you. But here's the kicker. This internal conflict doesn't only hold you back, it also creates a deep sense of frustration. You know you're capable of more, you can see the possibilities, and yet you find yourself stuck in the same old patterns. The problem isn't your ability, it's that your identity is working against you. It's like trying to expand your limits, but your inner self keeps dragging you back to where you've always been. The truth is, you can only go as far as your identity will allow. So what do you do about it? First, you need to confront your identity. You have to ask yourself, who do I believe I am? And why do I believe it? These questions may seem simple, but the answers are profound. Changing your identity isn't an overnight task. It requires deep introspection, a willingness to challenge old beliefs, and at times, a complete overhaul of the story you've been telling yourself. You may have spent years telling yourself you're not good enough, but the moment you shift that narrative, everything changes. Are you ready to rewrite your story? The process starts when you start viewing yourself not as who you've been, but as who you could become. You have to start seeing yourself as the person who can achieve what you once thought was impossible. This is the first step to breaking free from the chains of self-sabotage and stepping into the life you've always dreamed of. The real question is, are you willing to let go of your old identity, even if it means facing the fear of the unknown? Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a cage, but the bars are made of your own beliefs? It's easy to think that external circumstances are what's holding you back, but what if the real prison is inside your own mind? Limiting beliefs are the invisible walls that confine you to a reality far smaller than what you're capable of. The truth is, the most powerful force keeping you from your potential is the narrative you've bought into about who you are and what you can achieve. But what if you could break out? The first step to freedom is recognizing these limiting beliefs. They can take many forms. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy of success. Or I'll never be able to change. These are the subtle whispers that convince you to play small, to keep your dreams within a safe, restricted range. But here's the harsh truth. Every time you listen to these thoughts, you reinforce your own limitations. The beliefs you hold about yourself are not facts. They're stories you've chosen to believe. And the moment you challenge them, the walls start to crumble. Think about the last time you stopped yourself from doing something you wanted. Maybe it was because you thought you weren't ready, or you believed you didn't deserve success. In that moment, you were acting on a belief that didn't serve you, a belief that boxed you in. You were stuck in a cycle, one that repeats itself over and over, because you never question the foundation of your own limitations. It's like you're trapped in a room with the door wide open, but you won't walk through because you've convinced yourself it's locked. But here's the catch. These beliefs aren't just negative thoughts. They're powerful programs running in the background of your subconscious mind. They shape how you act, how you think, and even how you feel about your worth. The scary part? You might not even realize how deep they go. These beliefs are so embedded in your psyche that they control your life without you ever consciously choosing them. They dictate your reality, and you play along, believing that you're incapable of breaking free. Now let's talk about how you can begin to redefine yourself. First, you need to confront these beliefs head-on. Start by identifying them. Ask yourself, what are the stories I've been telling myself? What beliefs are holding me back? The next step is simple but powerful. Question the validity of these beliefs. Where did they come from? Who told you they were true? Challenge them with logic, with facts, and with your own experiences. The more you challenge these beliefs, the weaker they become. And when they lose their power, you begin to rewrite your own story. Finally, it's time to replace those limiting beliefs with empowering ones. This doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with small, deliberate shifts in your thinking. You can't just get rid of a belief without replacing it with a new, stronger one. Instead of "I'm not capable," start telling yourself, "I am more than capable of achieving what I want." The more you reinforce this new belief, the more it becomes ingrained in your subconscious. And as your beliefs change, so does the reality you experience. You can't escape your limitations until you redefine what's possible for you. So ask yourself, what would you do if you didn't believe you were limited? Do you ever wonder why top athletes can perform under pressure, or why some people seem to always visualize their success before it happens? It's not just mental trickery. This is the science of mental rehearsal. Visualization is not just a tool for the spiritually inclined or the dreamers. It's a method used by some of the most successful people on the planet to reprogram their self-image. But why does it work? What if your self-image could be shaped not by reality, but by the pictures you create in your mind? When you visualize, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. The same neural pathways are activated when you imagine yourself achieving your goals as when you actually do them. That's why, when you mentally rehearse a successful outcome, you're literally rewiring your brain to believe it's possible. But here's the catch. You need to do this intentionally. Without clear focus, visualization can simply become daydreaming. Are you consciously creating your future, or just waiting for it to unfold by chance? Think about the last time you succeeded at something you deeply wanted. Did you mentally rehearse it before it happened? Or did it feel like a lucky break? Most high achievers spend time mentally preparing for their success, seeing themselves winning, overcoming obstacles, and achieving their desired outcomes. They use the power of their imagination to prime themselves for success, strengthening their belief in what's possible. You've heard it before. Visualize the outcome. But do you realize how powerful this simple act can be in reshaping your self-image? Imagine what would happen if you practiced mental rehearsal on a daily basis. Every time you picture yourself succeeding, your mind begins to build a more resilient self-image, one that aligns with the person you want to become. The more vivid and real these mental images are, the more deeply they embed themselves into your subconscious. Over time, your brain starts to believe that success is not just possible, but inevitable. It's like training a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it becomes. But here's the critical question. Are you actively working on shaping your future, or are you letting your old beliefs dictate what's possible for you? Yet, here's the paradox. While visualization is a powerful tool, it's not enough on its own. Without the action to back it up, the images you create will remain just that, images. The mental rehearsal doesn't replace the work, it amplifies it. It's like preparing for a performance, but never stepping onto the stage. Can you see yourself achieving your goals? But are you also prepared to take the necessary steps to bring those images into reality? The real power lies in the intersection of imagination and action. So here's the challenge. Visualize your success, but do it with purpose and intention. Build a detailed picture of the person you want to be, the goals you want to reach, and the path you must take to get there. Then, follow through with unwavering belief and action. You're not just picturing the outcome, you're becoming it. The question now is, are you ready to reshape your self-image and manifest the life you truly want? Self-compassion is often dismissed as a luxury, something for those who are weak or overly emotional. But what if I told you that it's actually the cornerstone of true strength? Think about it. How many times have you been your harshest critic, pushing yourself relentlessly towards success, only to collapse under the pressure? When you're constantly beating yourself up, you're feeding the very image that holds you back. How much longer are you willing to sacrifice your peace for progress that feels hollow? The truth is, without self-compassion, you're just building a fragile house of cards. You may be able to push yourself to achieve, but at what cost? The cycle of perfectionism, shame, and burnout creates an image of yourself that is distorted, one that cannot accept failure or imperfection. This self-judgment becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading you to act in ways that confirm your harsh beliefs about yourself. So, how do you stop this cycle before it consumes you? The answer lies in compassion, learning to treat yourself as you would a dear friend, not as an enemy. When we fail or make mistakes, our instinct is often to lash out at ourselves. But why is this the default reaction? Why do we demand perfection from ourselves when we wouldn't dream of expecting it from others? Self-compassion isn't about lowering standards or excusing mistakes. It's about creating the space to learn, grow, and evolve without the fear of constant self-criticism. The key question here is, what would your life look like if you could embrace your flaws, imperfections, and setbacks as stepping stones rather than barriers? Imagine a world where you could stop apologizing to yourself every time things don't go according to plan. What would that feel like? Would you finally feel free to take risks and pursue your dreams without the burden of perfection hanging over your head? The journey towards self-compassion is not about making excuses. It's about recognizing your humanity. This shift allows you to grow and push forward, not out of fear of failure, but from a place of acceptance and resilience. However, here's where most people fail. They confuse self-compassion with complacency. They think, if I'm too kind to myself, I'll never push myself to achieve anything. But the reality is far different. Self-compassion is the very thing that fuels true motivation. When you treat yourself with kindness, you build the emotional strength necessary to keep going through difficult times. You can push harder and achieve more, because you're doing so from a place of self-empowerment, not self-loathing. Ultimately, the way you see yourself in moments of failure will shape your future successes. If you can embrace self-compassion, you start to rebuild your self-image on a foundation of strength, resilience, and acceptance. So the question is, are you ready to start treating yourself with the kindness and understanding you so freely give to others? Or will you continue to live in the prison of perfectionism, unable to break free? What if everything you've been taught about success was missing one crucial element? What if the key to unlocking your full potential wasn't about working harder, learning more, or pushing through obstacles? What if it was simply about seeing yourself differently? Your self-image, how you view and believe in yourself, holds the power to transform your reality. Yet, most people go through life unaware of how deeply this internal perception shapes their external success. Are you ready to question everything you've assumed about your limits? Maxwell Maltz introduced us to the concept of the psycho-cybernetic system, suggesting that your mind operates like a machine, automatically steering you toward the goals you subconsciously believe you can achieve. But here's the thing, if your self-image is flawed or limited, you'll continue sabotaging your own success. The question is, What happens when you finally take control of that image? When you no longer accept the false stories you've told yourself about being not good enough or not capable enough, everything shifts. But change doesn't happen overnight. It requires you to confront the narratives you've built around yourself and start rewriting them. What if the very things you've believed to be weaknesses were actually sources of untapped power? What if failure wasn't an end, but an invitation to redefine your limits? The transformation process begins by acknowledging that your self-image is not set in stone. It's a fluid, evolving narrative. Are you willing to challenge the story you've been living by? In this journey of self-transformation, the most crucial tool at your disposal is the power of belief. You may not have all the skills, resources, or knowledge right now, but with the right mindset, you have the ability to acquire them. Reprogramming your self-image requires you to accept that you are worthy of success, that you are capable of greatness. It's about shifting from a mindset of "I can't" to "I can learn how." How many opportunities have you passed up simply because you believed they weren't for someone like you? The truth is, unlocking your potential begins with one critical decision: deciding to see yourself differently. Instead of waiting for external validation or success to confirm your worth, you start by affirming your value from within. What would it feel like to stop living in fear of failure, knowing that you can always bounce back stronger? This shift in perspective creates a foundation from which real growth emerges. Once you free yourself from the shackles of a limited self-image, your potential becomes limitless. So, as you close this chapter and step into the next, ask yourself this: what are you truly capable of when you stop holding yourself back? It's time to stop seeing yourself through the lens of past failures, judgments, or limitations. The future is yours to create, and it all begins with the image you hold of yourself today. Your potential is unlocked the moment you choose to believe in the version of yourself that is capable of far more than you've ever imagined. If this video shook something inside you, good. That discomfort means you've seen the cracks in your self-image. Now don't let it fade into just another insight you forget. Subscribe to the Mind Arsenal, because this is where you stop just knowing what to do and finally become the person who does it. Rewatch this, reflect, and then take one step that scares your old self-image. Your transformation doesn't start tomorrow. It starts the moment you decide you're not that old version anymore. Hit that subscribe button. Let's rebuild you from the inside out.